Hey guys, Retro Gaming Guy here. So today in this video, we're going to unbox, demo, and review the Arcade Elite portable handheld video game console right here that I found on Amazon. So this is a 16 gigabyte setup. This comes with a 7-inch display on here, and it's got over 5,000 games plug and play ready to go as soon as you power this on. So I'm stoked to see what this offers. Now the price point on here is something really incredible. $69.99 on Amazon right now at the time of this recording. So definitely stoked to dive in here and see exactly what this has to offer. What we'll do today is we'll first unbox this. We'll take a look at it externally, see what the functions and features are. Then we'll boot it up. We'll take a tour through everything that is offered internally on here, and then jump into a bunch of games to really test out the performance and the overall experience. Let's dive into it and get started. All right, guys, so here's our box right here. We've got some great graphics on here. So go ahead and start opening this up. And there is our handheld sitting right in there. I'm sure we have some additional things underneath the tray, and the tray is cracking pretty significantly here. So not sure how much padding this does. I mean, it's pretty much crumbled away over here. You can see my finger coming through it. But, you know, it is what it is, I suppose. I'm going to take all the contents out of here, ditch the box for this video. All right, so we've got a mini HDMI to regular HDMI cable right here. We've got some earphones right here that plug in through an audio jack connection. And then we have our power supply cable that's going to go from USB-A right over to our handheld here in order to charge this. We've got a little user manual, and it just says on here, handheld game console product instructions. So let's open this up. So we got some really basic diagrams here. It's in a bunch of different languages. All foreign to me on that side. Let's see, I'm sure we have English on the other side. We do. So it tells us what's included in here. It outlines all the different port and function features on here. So I'm going to go ahead and just set this aside for the time being. Let's dive in and actually check out the handheld. So right off the bat, first impressions, very flat. Try to take a glance. I know this is a little bit tough because you know, it's just hard to see the depth of this, but if you use my hand as a guide here, you can see that this is very flat here. So it doesn't give you a whole lot to cup onto here. You can see we definitely want to have some more significant ridges there for it to be really, you know, really comfortable. But, you know, it's not bad in the end. So we have standard A, B, X, Y 4-button configuration right over here. We have 2 analog sticks, really awkward. Yeah, that does not feel good at all. I mean, I'm struggling to just kind of move these even the slightest bit. Wow. That, I mean, it feels absolutely horrendous, to be perfectly honest. I was hoping for way more than that. I don't dislike the overall design here. It is a matte black finish everywhere, but it looks pretty sharp, I'll be honest there. So A, B, X, and Y over here, we'll take that off. Buttons seem to have decent action, maybe a little bit sluggish, if anything, but they do pop right back up. There's nothing that seems like it's sticky or anything like that. Over here we have our D-pad, and the D-pad are individual buttons. They're not connected to each other. So for like kind of scrolling in that sort of format there, definitely doesn't seem like it would be really comfortable, whereas like your typical D-pad is going to be a cross piece, or sometimes they're circular, kind of like the Sega controllers used to be back in the day. So you can kind of scroll around there very nicely. Not the case here. We have a, it just appears to be an audio button here, so maybe that's to mute it, maybe that's to open up your volume control settings. We have an escape button, which is probably going to work as our hotkey when we jump into titles. We have a start and select over here. So let me just kind of get a feel for this in terms of, you know, how I would be gaming on here. And we also have just shoulder buttons up here. So no trigger buttons, simply shoulder. You really have to hit them down here closest to the sides for the action to be good. It's not bad. They're a little bit loose, a little bit shaky. Definitely seem very budget friendly. But if we try to hit them up here closer to the top portion of this, really awkward. I have to really force the push. Whereas on the edges, it's, you know, just a simple click and they seem to engage. Screen size, beautiful. Love the screen size here. Obviously, we got to check out what the screen resolution looks like, what the picture quality is on here. As of right now, though, I'm definitely liking it. Up here at the top, we have all of our port options. We have a USB-A on here, which is something you don't typically see on handhelds. We have a mini HDMI. We have our micro SD card slot right here with our micro SD card in there. I'm going to go ahead and open that up, eject that rather. 32 gigabyte setup within. So we will re-engage that. You can hear it kind of click into place there. We have a switch right here, which I don't know what that switch does. I'm going to have to look. Oh, off and on. So this was in the on position the entire time, which is odd because it wasn't on, but it's turning on now. So go figure. We have an audio, our audio connection right here. This is going to be our power supply port. And then we have another USB-A over here. So this is interesting. And then we have a camera on the back side as well. Speakers are located on the back too, which, you know, we'll have to see how the audio is on here. I'm usually not a big fan of that because your audio, you know, best case scenario is crystal clear, sounds great, but it's coming out the wrong way. You're obviously on this side, not that side. So for somebody across from you, it sounds great. Now, the battery is almost completely depleted here, probably because this was in the on position during transit. So I'm going to actually charge it up a little bit, and then we're going to tour through what is offered here. Then we'll jump into some games. All right, so here is our handheld. Now I'm going to remove the little film off of the display. Hopefully that's going to improve things because you can see here currently it's super shiny and glossy, but the picture quality is not looking great here. So let's see. Hopefully this makes a huge difference. All right, so it makes a better, I guess, better difference here. I wish this was touchscreen. Obviously, I knew that it wasn't going to be, but let's go down here to our settings. And with the analog sticks here, you really have to go one by one. Like when I say one by one, like push it one direction at a time for it to get to where you want. And it looks like the A button is going to do it. So let's go into display. Let's go into brightness, and oh yeah, that's making quite a difference. And we'll go to backlight, and I'm just going to change it to 5 minutes so it's not timing out on us. All right, cool. And let's just verify. Yeah, that's saved. Okay, cool. So we can hit the A button to back out. So we've got all of our collections kind of laid out up here. Now this is all coming from that micro SD card. So let's see. And I will say the picture quality is better in person than what I'm seeing on the monitor here as I film. I'm trying to not get glare, but the screen is very glossy here, so it is a challenge. So you can see we have everything outlined. So we have Capcom games, or what I assume is Capcom system games. FC games over here, so that's going to be Family Computer. GBA games, which is going to be Game Boy Advance, PS1 games, MD, which is going to be Mega Drive games, Game Boy Color games, Game Boy, I guess that's regular Game Boy games, and then, which is interesting because this looks like a Game Boy Advance SP for Game Boy Color. This looks like a Game Boy Color with regular Game Boy, and then we have, I guess, just our all games list, I'd assume. And then if we go over, we have classic nostalgia FC games, it says here. And then if we go over here again, let's see. Looks like it's just taking us to 3 total pages here. But I see we have Super Mario there. We have some golf. So we have some NES classics for sure. All right, so let's go through this one by one here. And I'm just going to make sure that, yeah, so these 3 screens just kind of loop around. So these are all of our collections. We'll go into Capcom system games first. And I guess the B button is going to be where we select what collection we want. All right, so in here we have 740 games, and we have Metal Slug in here. So we have, I mean, it's not all Capcom games, I can tell you that right off the bat. Got Punisher in here, so there definitely are some Capcom games, but it's not all Capcom. And we can't hold this down, so we literally have to tap this every time we want to advance. We can also use the D-pad. That one we can hold down, so that speeds up the process a little bit here. So very hard to navigate because they're not in alphabetical order. Well, sometimes they are, and then you'll have like a random one in there that kind of throws you for a loop. So yeah, I think anything sort of goes in here. We have way more games than we would need to have if this was truly just Capcom, but certainly don't have 740 Capcom games. It appears that we have a lot of, because I feel like I've gone through this list now multiple times, it appears like we have a lot of additional games on here, like duplicate games on here rather. So I'm going to back out of this. I'm just not crazy about this layout right off the bat, I'll say that. But let's go into FC games. So inside here, 12,060. That's pretty extensive. Some great titles in here, though. Let's see how it goes from D to J to K to L, M. So we got Mortal Kombat. We've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We've got a lot of great games. It's just, how do you find the damn things? We can go to X and we can search things. So let's say that we want, like, let's just type in Mario just to see what pops up. And this is it's way easier to use the D-pad than the analog sticks here. And then if we go down to the search and we confirm it there. So Mario yields no results, which is interesting. Let's type in like Contra. Whoops. Hit the wrong button. And then we'll search it with the start button here. All right, so that worked. So the search function does appear to work, which is good. All right, so we're going to back out of this. And we'll keep it moving. We have Game Boy Advance games here. And there's 620 Game Boy Advance games. And I assume that they're all Game Boy Advance games. I mean, it's hard to tell because so far our collections have been all over the place. But like Sonic the Hedgehog, we have A1, A2, A3. Let's launch one of these and see what we get here. Let's see what the experience is like. So this should be Sonic Advance here, which it does appear to be based on, you know, the graphics that I'm seeing so far. So we won't have to use the analog sticks for this game. We would just be using the D-pad and the A, B, X, and Y. Or not even that many, but... we can use that, but... All right, I mean, that was actually pretty cool. All right, so we'll back out. All right, so we'll go over to PS games now. So PS games, we only have, it looks like, well, wait, it says 80 games, but I only see 4 here. Okay. Right, it says 80 files, but there's really only 4 games here. Let's jump into Tekken 3 and see how that performs at least. And yeah, analogs are absolute garbage here. D-pad's not bad, other than I wish they were connected, because when I go to switch directions like in Sonic, it's very awkward to just do this without physically, you know, putting my eyes down here to navigate that. You know, it just doesn't have a great feel to it. So PlayStation seems to not be doing a whole lot here. Oh, there we go. No intro, no background music so far.
Round one. Fight.
Very slow. All right, very, very, very laggy. Audio's off. Maybe we can manipulate the settings a little bit, but there's no background music. There's no intro. So they've definitely dumbed the ROM down considerably, probably to get it onto a smaller capacity card, take up less space, etc. So yeah, not crazy about that experience here. But I mean, for Game Boy Advance, it's been good so far. So let's go over here to Mega Drive. And so it says 860 files, but I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, I guess there's that many, but I think there's tons of duplicates on here, just based on what we've been seeing so far. We'll jump into, see if Moonwalker will launch. All right. Yeah, very laggy there. That sucks. I mean, it's playable, but it's very, very laggy still. It's intermittent. You can hear the music just off timing is prevalent in every aspect of that. So it's just kind of all over the place. Yeah, we'll back out of that one. So we have Game Boy, the Game Boy one. So we already tried Game Boy Advance, so I have no doubt that Game Boy and Game Boy Color work fine. Let's go into this games collection here. Oh, so it's just like our settings and favorites and recent games. So, okay, that's nothing new. So basically, these are our core collections on here. And I mean, 5,000 is wild. I mean, as we jump into PlayStation, there's only 3 games here. It says there's 80 files, but show me where they are. I don't know what's going on there. So, yeah, very sloppy. Basically, Capcom system games is basically just all arcade games thrown together. Let's jump into, let's at least test out some of those. Like, let's try Metal Slug 4, see what the experience is like. Because, I mean, even Mega Drive is laggy. PlayStation definitely laggy, which I can understand, but Mega Drive shouldn't be. man, I wanted to like this. Oh, what a what a disappointment. So this looks like a pretty cool handheld, right? Like the design of this is on point. It's like a cheap Steam Deck. It looks like one of those old school JXD handhelds from, I don't know, what's that, about 6, 7 years ago now. I loved those when they first came out. I had one. They were great. They were chunky. You were using like Happy Chick for emulators and stuff, which was hit or miss. But for the most part, the performance on there was good, especially considering the times. This is not aligned with that. It's a great idea. It's almost like a prototype. Like this would have a huge following if it was done correctly. The analog sticks on here, they're not even analog sticks. I mean, they're so low profile. The movement is so limited on here. They're just not good in any way, shape, or form. You can't even navigate with them. You have to just use them basically like a D-pad. So if you saw me gaming on here, you see that I switched over to the D-pad because it's the exact same experience, except the D-pad feels much better. And the D-pad feels better in comparison. It's an absolute shit show there, to be perfectly honest. Because the D-pad's not connected, all 4 buttons on here are literally no different than the A, B, X, or Y. So imagine using A, B, X, and Y as a D-pad. That's essentially what you're doing here, except the profile of these buttons is higher. So you have a longer depth to engage these buttons over here on the D-pad than you do on the A, B, X, and Y. That means you can't just go for like Sonic Advance, for example. If I wanted to go right, so I'd go D-pad right, and I wanted to quickly switch and go left on screen, I would just roll my thumb over from D-pad right to D-pad left. Because these are so raised up and not connected, I have to remove my thumb from D-pad right, move it over to D-pad left, push it down on D-pad left, and because the depth of the buttons is so deep, you lose literally what feels like a second and a half in that process. And if you saw me playing Metal Slug 4 here, you saw that I died very often, and it's because my response time is just so slow because of the D-pad. So, man, it sucks because I wanted to like this. Now, 7-inch screen is awesome. I love that design. This doesn't feel great. The shoulder buttons up here are absolutely dreadful. Just really, really, really terrible. These aren't thick enough here. The handle section here is not thick enough to where you get a good grasp of this. It just feels like you're holding, kind of like, honestly, it feels like you're holding a plate in front of you. It's so thin. So just, I mean, I didn't drop it or anything. It's manageable. The A, B, X, and Y buttons work fine, but that's about it. Sound is poor on here. The sound quality is just not great. It gets really loud, and I can't actually externally adjust the volume. Like there's a volume button here. If I push that, you can probably see, I know we have a glare. That's the other thing. The glare on here is insane. You get a audio bar across the top. You can see it across the top here. No buttons or button configurations. Oh, no, I lied. I was going to say nothing adjusts the volume levels. It does actually. It's the shoulder buttons that do it. So you can adjust externally the volume. It's not great though. It's just really distorted in a lot of cases. It doesn't sound good at all. So, man, it's just a miss across the board. Every way that this could have failed, it really did. Just, it sucks. I wish I could say nicer things about it, but it sucks. I would say because the performance on here is not even good, like Tekken, so PlayStation 1, out of the question. Mega Drive, believe it or not, out of the question. It's laggy. The audio is just in and out, which is an indication that everything is just underperforming across the board. There's lag and latency in pretty much everything except Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. So I would say if I'm in a positive mood, I'll put it this way. You could get this and play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and it's not a terrible experience. Still, the controls and the D-pad aren't great. It's manageable though. Like I did fine in Sonic Advance today, and it was a fun experience more or less. But $69.99 just to play 3 collections that you could get on literally any handheld out there. That would also give you a better experience on everything else. Like I wouldn't recommend it for that because you can get more value and bang for your buck elsewhere, literally anywhere elsewhere. So yeah, it's a miss. Like if you get this for $10, cool. Get it for $10, play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, have a good time with it. If it craps out, in 2 weeks, at $10, it really doesn't owe you anything. But they're selling for $69.99 on Amazon. I would never tell anybody to go buy one of these. They're just piss poor quality. They underperform, and I wouldn't be surprised if the whole thing just crapped out completely in 2 weeks. It's just really poor quality across the board. So man, I wish I could tell you something better, but I can't. It's just not a good experience. So, no link. I mean, I'll put a link in the description so you can check it out for yourself. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend buying it. You know, if unless it was again like 10, 15 bucks max, I could see you getting it and just having a, something to play around with those couple collections that are okay. But yeah, unfortunately, it's a pass for me. But let me know what you guys think of this underperforming handheld with a fairly decent design to it in the comments of this video. You guys know the deal. If you enjoy the content and the heads up on this product, please give me a thumbs up right here on this video. And of course, subscribe to the Retro Gaming Guy YouTube channel to stay in the loop for all future videos. Thank you guys so much for your time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.